So you've just had a baby. And when you have a rare, brief, quiet moment, you may wonder to yourself, what will they be like when they grow up? Will they be happy and easygoing? Will they be able to get on with others and make friends? Will they succeed at school? Will they be a scientist or an artist, a whiz at maths or a dancer? Well, it turns out that the answers to these questions depends very much on the experiences you give your baby in their first 3 years of life, when their brain and body are growing and developing at their fastest. This DVD tells you a little about your baby's brain, how it develops in infancy, and the kinds of movement experiences they need to develop well and get a head start in life. It gives you some easy tips on what you can do at various stages of your baby's first year or so, from tummy time through to walking, and what you can do to support them at each stage as they learn to move and control their own bodies. Compared to children growing up 30 years ago, babies and young children are much less active. There are many reasons for this. Changes in work patterns, TV and technology, and an emphasis on formal early learning have all had an effect. But the way we transport our babies has changed too, along with what they wear, where they spend their time, and how they play. Society has changed greatly in the last few years. Making sure our children are still physically active has become quite a challenge. Unfortunately, simple movement play is disappearing from the lives of many babies and young children, and the effect of this has begun to be noticed.
Reception children seem to be entering school and they've got less and less awareness of their own bodies, really. They're not quite sure what the left and the right arm is doing, and when it comes to completing tasks that they can't see themselves doing, so doing a button-up that's under their chin, or sitting down and putting their plimsolls on if their knee is in the way, they can't complete that task. They're coming in with really floppy ankles and they're running and walking with flat feet in a really floppy fashion.
I've been teaching for 15 years now, and over the last few years I've really noticed a difference in children's willingness to be physical. So when I first started teaching, the children would come running into the classroom, and if you said who would like to go outside to play, you would have to stop them because there'd be so many running to go outdoors. Whereas now the children come in, even the boys are saying, oh, I'm tired, can I sit down?
Parents who think that they're doing the very best for their children buy them these baby scoots that they just have to sit in and wheel around. Throughout their whole lives, they're just being stuck in containers. And then when they get older, they've got a TV in their room and a game station in their room, so they don't have to go outside. And they're not experiencing what children were experiencing years ago. What children need now hasn't changed in the last 30 years, but our lifestyle has changed dramatically. And children are far more sedentary now, and they're not getting that physical movement that they need.
Have you got a TV in your bedroom? Put your hand up.
The children that we get coming in that haven't got control over their body, they're not ready to listen to a teacher. So unless children have got that strength in their body and they are physically ready to learn, we haven't got any foundations for the further learning which should be happening when they get to school.
This lack of physical development is often unintentional. Indeed, research indicates that both parents and early years workers still perceive that young children are very active. They frequently describe them as always on the go. The true picture, however, is very different, and many babies and young children are sedentary or restricted in their movement for much of their day. This is having a direct impact on how ready our children are for coping with life at school.
All the primary schools in my group, and there were 8 primary schools, assessed each of their Foundation 4+ class. And what we found with the 12 exercises we were working with was that the results were much poorer than we expected. And we were looking for a pass rate of a child to be able to do 9 out of the 12 exercises. And a lot of those exercises a child should do by the time they're 2. So we were expecting an 80% pass rate. The reality was we actually got an 80% failure rate. So of the nearly 300 children we assessed, 80% could do less than 9 exercises. And those exercises included things like standing on one leg for 5 to 10 seconds, lying on the floor and holding your head up. So there were very simple movements, and so we were shocked at the level of development that we saw.
The most rapid period of motor development for a child is the period from 0 to 2 years old. In that brief period of time, the changes that go on in the brain and the body are phenomenal, and the child's developing at a faster rate than at any other time in life. Really, they need to be moving and playing a lot during that time. It's during that time that the child should be developing the core muscles, the curves of the spine, the visual system, so that the eyes can work together and deal with the world out there. They should be developing knowledge of their limbs and how they move in a coordinated way and how they can remain upright. They develop their balance system and their posture and their stability. I'd be expecting them to be able to roll over and belly crawl and get into an on all fours position and in and out of it. And I'd be expecting their movements to becoming more and more coordinated and more fluid. I'd be looking at them walking forwards in a nice coordinated way and walking backwards, and beginning to perhaps jump with both legs together. These are exactly the sort of things that I'm seeing lacking in the children who are early on in school and are arriving at school without these basic fundamental movement skills. If we want our children to avoid the kind of problems that we're seeing, we need to make sure that the first year especially, children are going through the normal developmental stages that were identified many years ago. We need to make sure that they have freedom and opportunity to move during that time, and that parents know how they can encourage that. We need a greater awareness of the impact of physical development has on the chances of success for that child later in life. They are sedentary for a great amount of time from birth, and movement play has this huge role in developing the brain and the body, and neuroscience is telling us that now. And so it's play that's disappearing, and it's play that we need to bring back.